All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 38 of the Content Lab podcast. Today, we're joined by Tully Chapman. Tully, what's up, bro? How are you doing?
Life is really good. Yeah, it's a busy morning running around. I was worried I wasn't going to make it here because I did end up having to go meet with a client, and then traffic was hectic getting back to the house. But again,
Made
we
it.
talked about a little bit before the show here. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every-
I'm going to change your handle to your Instagram if that's okay.
oh yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
is that right, Tully?
Dot creative
Okay.
dot media. That's it.
There you
That's my Threads handle.
Oh, dude, I was just going to talk about that. Like, there's a new app. I think it went live yesterday, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Or to the actually I think for a lot of people it technically went live today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I got pretty tired of Twitter because it was just like every time I would get on, it was just political and people's opinion like filth. I like
Yeah.
couldn't get away with it or get away from it, I should say.
Oh,
So
look.
that's what I'm
Got
excited.
somebody here.
Oh,
You're in the
nice.
thread. Yeah, I just posted something literally like 3 minutes ago. Like, hey, I'm
Yeah,
going live. If you're coming from there, just drop a comment real quick. But yeah,
nice.
I like it. I posted a comment yesterday, just kind of like joking, but being for real. I'm like, no crypto here, no political anything. That's why we got Twitter,
Hmm.
and no reels here. That's why we got Instagram. Let's make this something like
Yeah.
cool. What I like is that it connects to your Instagram.
Hmm.
So I have like the same friends on Instagram there, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. Sometimes the when an app gets released, everybody's like super into it, and then a month after, nobody uses it. But who knows? Since it's integrated with Instagram, it might work out.
Yeah. That was like normally I wouldn't be an early adopter of any new usually technology or any of that kind of stuff. I usually kind of wait it out, but this was a pretty easy thing for me to pull the trigger on because it's just the same community of people that I already had. So
Absolutely. We
we'll
got
see.
photos by Monty. I'm just checking him out. One blowing rock. Oh, cool. That's dope. Well, thanks for joining. All
Yeah.
right, Bullet. So let's talk about you. One of the reasons why, again, we've talked before, but I thought it was pretty interesting that recently, probably less than a month ago, you quit your full time job, something you've been working, growing for the past 10 years, right? Or
Hmm.
10 plus years. And you decided to pretty much pursue a passion, right? Like something you wanted to do, something that you see yourself doing this in the future, and you jumped into this career as full time. So I want to know about your whole experience. Like first, like what do you do before for those 10 years, and what made you realize like this is it? I want to pursue this career.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm incredibly thankful that you had me come on the podcast because I had my own podcast for a while and I listened to a ton of podcasts. And this is one of the few podcasts that I've listened to every single episode of. It's been cool to go from episode number one all the way up to now. And it's wild to be on
Yeah,
this.
with,
But
with our friend Scott, we both
yeah,
know him very well.
yeah, it was actually, I think you interviewed Scott like 2 weeks after we had him on our podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town south of Lansing, Michigan, a rural town, and I grew up playing sports, but I always had a passion for just like artistic stuff. I actually posted last year, I found on my old YouTube channel a video that a friend and I made on like a Sony handy cam. It's terrible. Like we want to do some like Jason Bourne style action stuff. And I did a lot of Photoshop stuff, but everybody was always like, you can't do that as a career. Like people, you're just like a broke artist if you do that kind of stuff. And so, of course, I went the safe route. I played college football and I went to school for exercise science. And I ended up becoming a strength and conditioning coach. I really fell in love with, I love like training montages. Like Rocky Four and really any training montage, and so it made sense that I fell in love with lifting weights, and I also had some pretty great results on my end as far as between my junior and senior year of college. I went from about 175 to about 205 in body weight and moved from playing cornerback to outside linebacker. And, and so it was like one of those things where like I made myself into that and I wanted to be able to help other people do that. So I was really, really passionate about strength and conditioning. I interned down in Louisiana And when that ended, I came back up to Michigan, and I was a high school strength coach from 2013 until recently. And the school that I was at, Granville High School, um, my first day when I got there in 2014, we had, I want to say 11 kids show up after like a month of advertising. Like, we're going to start strength and conditioning sessions. We're going to do all this stuff. And when I left my job, we had over 1,000 kids enrolled in the program. And if
Oh,
anybody is listening to this, if you look up Granville High School, Michigan weight room, it's like one of the sickest high school weight rooms you ever see. Like, it's a 10,000 square foot weight room with 20 racks. And it was just like a dream place to be working.
so you
Um,
pretty much grew this in the past 10 years, right?
yeah, literally from nothing. We were in like a closet with all this broken barbells and all this stuff. And yeah, it was just a day at a time, connecting with kids and parents and coaches. And I mean, everything I do, I get really obsessed with. Not to the point of harm, but I just like
I feel
con
like a lot of creatives are like that.
yeah, it's
They're
definitely
obsessed with something and stick to it.
it's like the common thread for sure,
Mhm.
especially because like strength coaching is a lot like creative media, where if you're a strength coach, you have to know how to like teach people lift weights. You have to be able to teach people, speed technique and agility training and plyometrics. And you have to know recovery and nutrition and sports psychology. And there's all these things that I could just constantly be diving into, which like when I started getting into creative stuff, it was like, okay, I need to learn about the gear itself. I need to
Mhm.
learn about, obviously like frame rates, composition, and then you can even dive further into like, I mean, people make a whole career out of lighting, like being a grip and
Absolutely,
gaffer. So
exactly,
like,
yeah. And
um,
it's really cool that you mentioned that because people when they ask me like tips and how can I get started, I always say like try to start from the basic because right now cameras are so like simple to use that some people just start shooting without learning how to actually use the camera, like what frame, like what's aperture, what's ISO, like and they get so far into it that at some point it feels almost like, "Ah, I'm not gonna regress, go back and try to learn that," and they just kind of just go with the flow
mhm,
instead of like learning from the basics. That's what I did, like very similar to your story. I got like really into this and I wanted to learn exactly how to use a camera before trying to use it professionally. And I think that's super important. Like you need to know exactly how your camera operates, what it means. Like if you want to make this a full-time career, you have to be fully aware of every single, detail when it comes to photography or videography.
yeah.
And but it is a common thing to just like shoot auto and then start from there and then people like, oh gosh, what do I do now?
Yeah, I mean, like I've always been a systems guy. So when I was a strength coach, a lot of people would be just want to know, like, hey, why are you doing the sets and reps that you're doing? Like, or just tell me the lifts that I need to do to get bigger and stronger. And
Yep.
I was always like, I need to know the deeper level of things. So that way, again, I just would prefer to know the deep level so that way I can adapt better to whatever, the situation is. So,
Totally. Dude,
um,
I still remember me being on YouTube, like just researching as much as I could and
yeah.
just watching video. And then even like the same topic, just different creatives talk about it because you can find, I mean, I've talked about this in the past, but you can find like really deep research into cameras. Like if you watch like Gerald and Don stuff,
Mhm.
videos like that, you go so deep into every aspect of camera lenses, and then you can watch videos that are more basic into like the whole like just how to what he means every single detail. So, dude, I will watch those for hours and hours. Then go shoot what like one of my friends just on a skateboard, and then come back edit. Oh, it looks like shit. Let's do it again.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, half the time you don't know what you're doing in the first place.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, that's like, it's actually funny how I got into the whole thing. So, I was like, at one point, this was 4 years ago, I was like, what we're doing in the weight room at Granville is so cool that like we should document this. One of my kids uh, started doing like a vlog of his own weightlifting, and I was like, why don't we just do weight room vlogs?
that's cool.
So, I convinced the school to buy me a GoPro, and I started shooting on a GoPro. And it's actually, I owe a ton. We were just talking about Scott. I would not be in this industry at all if it wasn't for Scott Vandersloot. One, for the inspiration, just like seeing his stuff at Ferris State and at Ashland University before he went to CrossFit Mayhem. And then when I started doing stuff, Scott was such an open book with like, I literally got this GoPro and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I would like make something and I would send him the video and he would get back to me and be like, hey, you slowed that footage down and it's choppy because you didn't shoot at a high enough frame rate or whatever. And these are things that I literally just didn't know.
Mhm.
So like, without him kind of pointing me in the right direction on a lot of things, I, wouldn't be doing any of this.
Yeah,
So
dude,
yeah, that,
he's so good at what he does, and he's so open on like helping people. I mean, he's helped me tremendously. I wouldn't say specifically when it comes to like shooting stuff like that, but just the way he like handles himself in a professional setting, like it just blows my mind sometimes. He's like 25. When I met him, he was like 24 years old. I'm like, dude, like you're way ahead of everybody else. Like you act like a I mean, right now he's the media director of CrossFit Mayhem. He's
yeah.
26 years old. And the dude, like, he's a boss, right? Like the
Mhm.
dude is yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Scott and I actually trained together at CrossFit Grand Rapids for a summer when he was interning for one of the local news stations.
I had no idea. You know
Yes.
Sam too, right?
Say it again.
Do you know Sam? He's right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in the
Um,
same gym, right?
Yep. Well, so Zoe was on the team that I worked with the past 2 years.
Gotcha.
And then Sam trained out of a gym that's just south of Grand Rapids. And obviously they've been dating. So
Yeah.
we know them. But yeah, it was actually wild. I pulled up to my house one day and my neighbor was wearing one of the Mayhem Pray shirts.
Hmm.
And I got out and I was like, hey, do you do CrossFit? And she's like, no, I mean, we work out, but we're really just into the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
laughed out loud and we were talking and she was like, I don't know if we're going to go to the games because some of the people like Rich and some of the other people aren't going to be competing, but we really like this new girl on one of the teams. Her name's Zoe. And I'm like crying, like cackling, laughing because it's such an odd thing that of all the people that
Yeah.
they would pick her out. And I like instantly called Zoe. So,
You know what's funny talking about the YouTube? So many people have like when I post something about Mayhem, they like talk to me about it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you do CrossFit, and they're like, no, I don't. I just like to the YouTube channel. I'm like,
mhm.
oh, interesting. So they know about CrossFit because of the YouTube channel instead of actually the sport. Like doing it.
Yeah, that's what I had to share with Scott that like people that don't even care about working out, like the YouTube channel. Yeah, it's really wild. And I think there's also a connection there religious. And so there is that
Yeah, for sure.
connection as well. I think if you're at church probably with people that are into fitness, there's probably that connection there. So but
Dude,
yeah.
it seems like you built something really special there, and I can only guess that trying to step away from that you built for 10 years, like I'm sure you felt like a special connection to the whole program.
Oh yeah, I mean I still do. It was like I don't know. I've struggled to come up with the words to describe it. It feels kind of like going through a breakup, but you're the one that breaks up with the other person, like
You
not
know
the
that
one
there's
being broken
something.
up with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I still feel so connected. Like I actually just did a mock shoot with a bunch of kids that I coached. And yeah, it was really hard. But what ended up happening was when my daughter was born, my wife also became a nurse and she works nights and she really has her dream job. She works in postpartum and gets to take care of moms and babies, and she has an incredible job. But because she goes in at 6 p.m. and doesn't get home till 8 a.m., that was when a lot of my work was being done. I would have sessions for like 6 to 8 a.m. or yeah, 6 to 8 p.m. and people kept having to do my job for me. And
Yeah.
so it was one of those things where it was really this past September that I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I was like, I just don't think this place is as good with me at the helm as it, once was. And I think somebody needs to, probably run this place better than I'm able to do it. So I actually started like, this is probably the first time I've ever told anybody. I started kind of like a master plan of in September. I knew we were going to turn over some positions. So I made sure one of the PE teachers that got hired was a strength coach. And then when I was resigning, I gave the school like 2 months notice. And they had 108 applicants for my job.
Oh wow.
And yeah, the guy they ended up hiring was like the head strength coach of Valparaiso University. That's how good of a job it was. Like, I wish that it was a more compelling story, like, my bosses were jerks to me and all this stuff, but it was really like I had the dream job and I had to leave it. Um, Luckily, it wasn't a leap of faith because over the past few years, I'd been building my creative business. And really, the way that I knew that it was the time was right was I had acquired enough like retainer, like monthly income clients that I actually doubled my salary from the school. And I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah, it's
out.
right.
And then the insurance came from my wife, from her great job at the hospital. So like there's nothing like as exciting about it as a lot of people would probably like, that it's like I just burned the boats. There's no plan B kind of thing, but it was like
Yeah, like
multiple
that
years
you
of
have an
planning.
income for 2 months trying to
Yeah,
make
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I wish that I could say it was more exciting than that, but it was absolutely insane when I had my last day, and it was like, I was expecting it to be this like all these people would come and give me hugs, and it would be this kind of thing, and it was just kind of like I just stopped going.
Yeah.
And it was kind of sad, but I still have a great connection to all the kids and people there, and like I'm still gonna go film every football game. Hopefully I'll still do, media, that kind of stuff. But that's where I got my reps, was just free reps. Like I had all these sporting events and athletes that I could just shoot, and I could literally do it without there being any consequence, to me doing any of this stuff. So
So
that was a lot of fun. So, oh, we got another thread.
yeah, Lindsay, dude, I've been trying to get her on the pod for since the day I started this, but I don't think she'll do it.
She's too busy.
She's too. I don't know. I think she's just shy. Okay, so we have a comment here. I was a high school athlete, went to college for communications, got into the military, which then introduced me to CrossFit and weightlifting. Now trying to find my way out of 9 to 5, and hopefully finding my way into this challenging creator field, and making a living doing what I love, video and photography. So yeah, I one of the things too that I always try to tell people is that if you're really into CrossFit and weightlifting and that's the main thing you want to shoot, I think it is really hard to just do that and make it as a career. Like if you want to focus just on those two things, I mean, I guess you can. There's people that do it, but I think it's always good to supplement with other things. I still like, I mean, CrossFit and weightlifting or whatever it's sports, I do it more as a passion. But when it comes to like the day to day things that I do here in town are mostly like commercial stuff, like
Mhm.
having clients, having retainers like you have. I have social media agencies, stuff like that, right? And that just kind of supplements my income, like just keeps me really busy. But when it comes to CrossFit, I mean, think about it. How many CrossFit competitions are in a year? You can find some CrossFit gyms, but at the same time, like the CrossFit gym business is not very profitable. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't see too many gyms trying to pay too much, right? And same thing, like they're not gonna hire you that you're already with this gym, the competitor like gonna, so it's kind of hard to just focus on one thing when it comes only that. Again, if you want to do only weddings, there is a market that you can do
Yeah.
only weddings, and dude, you can get really busy and make a lot of money if you're really passionate into that.
Yeah. And if you don't want to have any weekends.
No weekends, and yeah, and deal with a lot of stress.
Yeah, that's what I've done a couple weddings, and I really don't have much interest on that market.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's what I think. One thing that I was really unprepared for was everybody is always saying like niche down, niche down, niche down,
Yeah.
and none of my clients are in the same niche.
I mean, I'm like that too. When I was on the not too long ago, I went to the Coffee and Watts podcast with Mr.
Mhm.
Pedro, and he's like, "Dude, I have a question for you. I went to your website, and it says you do real estate, weddings, family photos, food photography, event photography, live music. Do you actually do all that?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, that's all me." Like I try again. I have things that I focus more, I have things that I like more, that I'm more passionate about,
Mhm.
but I try to supplement with whatever I can, right?
Yeah.
Again, I I do recommend the niche part of it if the industry or your focus is gonna be it's profitable. Like if I have friends that they just do, video production. They just do high end video production. They're in town and they crush it. Like they work with clients in their, food. I don't know, breweries, whatever they want to do, commercial stuff, and they crush it. And I think if you want to focus on that, you can also be doing like weddings and then shooting like a CrossFit competitions, because there's just not enough time to run a full high end production company and then do that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like stuff more than if you like to be more like diversified in different things, like there's nothing wrong. I don't think I have an issue. People think that I do because of my Instagram. It's mostly sports stuff, but I don't, and I think it keeps it fun for me. I like to do different stuff. Who knows? Maybe in the future I'll find something that I'll focus 100% into it. But for now, it's like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I wish I wish that I wish that I could just do sports and CrossFit. But
Yeah,
there's yeah, like you said, it's just not profitable. There's no unless if you get in probably with a professional sports team, even like in the Grand Rapids area, there's not any colleges that are going to hire, somebody to be at least a livable salary to do content creation. Um, we don't have any like Division 1 schools or any of that stuff close enough. And then on top of that, like high schools are not going to pay somebody full time. I mean, it'd be incredible if somebody did. Uh, so yeah, that's what I found my way through networking and just finding odd jobs. But it is, I think the niche is also kind of overrated because if you have a good concept of like composition and lighting and all those kinds of things, it really goes the same for just about every shoot.
mm,
Like
yeah,
I don't really think, obviously I feel like I have a better eye when I'm in a CrossFit environment or in a weight room or on a sports, watching sports, but like I don't need to just be a football videographer. I don't just need to be a CrossFit, videographer because all those concepts apply the
yeah.
same. So
It depends on the industry. Like if you want to be a very successful wedding photographer, videographer, I think
mhm.
that has to be your main focus, 100%. I have friends that they crush it in weddings, and they don't even do like family photos. As family tells them like, "Hey, we want to do an engagement." No, we
Nah,
only do weddings. Oh my, no, weddings only, and they crush it. I
okay.
mean, to get them out of the house on a Friday, Saturday, you have to pay a lot of money. But yeah, it depends on the industry.
Yeah.
Talking about, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, since you work in so many different industries, what's your process like for getting clients? Are you mostly through word of mouth, or are you doing a lot of networking and outreach?
I think at this point it's a lot of word of mouth, but I was just gonna talk about networking. So I think at the beginning, mostly was a lot of networking. The reason why I was gonna talk about networking is because I was checking your Instagram, and we'll talk about this in a second. But yeah, dude, at the beginning, I always like I think it's so important to just make as many good smart connections as you can. Just meet people that are one level ahead of you, one level you know above, and you can only learn from them. Like if
Mhm.
you hang out with people that are on a different level, the only thing you're gonna get is benefits. You're gonna know how to do things that you had no idea. You're gonna learn a lot. One of my friends was telling me the other day, like, dude, what do you think if you play basketball and you start hanging out with Michael Jordan? If you start like playing with him, what are you gonna do? You're gonna get so much better.
Yeah, or
And
you're gonna quit playing
I
basketball.
think Michael Jordan is gonna get worse. So
Yeah,
it's like try to hang out with people that are better than you, man. Like
yeah.
try to learn from them.
Isn't that called
And
like the rule of fives or whatever? The five people you hang out with the most are the
yeah.
people. That's who you become,
Yeah,
kind of
he's a
thing.
little more aggressive. He's like, dude, if you hang out with losers, you're gonna be an absolute failure. I'm like, hey, chill.
Well,
But I mean, but he has a point. And that's what I did. I tried to connect with people that were a lot better than me, people that I wanted to be at their level at one point, and just make connections, ask questions, and network. And at this point, luckily, I'm in a position that I'm pretty busy throughout the week, and it's a lot of word of mouth. not that much connection, like networking. But at the same time, dude, I feel like I'm constantly networking. Like right now, I feel like we're doing some sort of like, we're connecting, we're networking, we're talking to people in the chat. So just doing the podcast kind of like my way of networking and opening different doors.
Yeah, I really miss doing my podcast because I got to meet so many people. Like, it was so wild. We got I don't know if you know who Jordan Syatt is.
I don't think so.
He's like Syatt Fitness. He's like been he was Gary V's personal trainer for a couple years.
Oh,
He's like a West Side Barbell guy. He's like one of the smallest guy. I don't remember. He has like the highest total ever for like a 125-pound guy. But it was wild because he had like 1 million followers, and he ended up answering our email and getting on our podcast. And like
that's very cool.
he
That's
was just like a super normal
yeah,
guy, and it was great to network with him. Or like the guy that is the owner of Sorenex, the weightlifting equipment company, Bert Soren. He jumped on a podcast with us, and we were talking for 2 hours, and he wouldn't get off. And it was just, I don't know, it's just, I think networking in itself is fun, like just to meet
absolutely.
people and learn their stories. So that's been definitely one of my favorite things, is being able to like, at the high school, I was really just in that one place a lot. I was the director of the Strength Coaches Association, so I did some networking through that. But now I literally can see new people every day, and
And
it's so fun.
it's, dude, every time I do an event, because I do a lot of corporate event that you hire, that like, some businesses hire me for 3 hours to their corporate, whatever they have going on. And every time I shoot one of those events, I end up giving my business card to like three or four like CEOs of companies and stuff like that. That I don't even like just talking to them. They're like, "Oh, are you local? Yeah, yeah, I'm here. I'm from Pensacola. Sweet. Like, do you have a business card here?" And then you get business like that, just connecting, talking to people, networking. And for some reason, like having a camera in your hand, it just people are attracted to like talk to you.
Yeah,
Like I'm just the guy that's in like a corner just taking photos, and there's like the president of like a big company here, and they just like, "Hey, are you local? What are you doing here? I like your photos." I'm like, "What do you mean you like my photos? You haven't seen anything." It's so funny after event. "Oh, you did an amazing job." I'm like, "You haven't seen the photos, but
yeah,
thank you.
I'm still taking them.
I'm still taking them, but thank you." That means
Yeah,
that they like the way you manage yourself around the floor.
yeah, especially if you're personable, man, goes a
Yeah,
long way. Actually, you talked about on the podcast the other day with Chadrick, well, a couple of weeks ago, just talking about like he created opportunities for himself just by being a nice, personable guy.
I mean, Chadrick is the number one when it comes to that. Like people don't even know his work, and then he just gets jobs because of the way he is, like how personable he is,
Just
and
good vibes.
yeah, yeah, and it helps a lot, man. Like it's crazy, and I've talked about this how some people just don't get that naturally. Like even like really incredible people with good heart, they're just very introverted,
Mhm.
and for them, it's just harder to try to act like natural or like be personable with other people. So there is pros and cons when it comes to that, but
But
also
that is a super underrated part of the skill set and what we do,
yeah.
especially if you're doing video. Well, I guess photo works too, because like most people do not like to be put in front of a camera.
Mm,
Even if
sure.
like my one of my best friends, he's a real estate agent, and I do the content for their marketing, and you cannot get the guy to shut up. But when you that's actually funny, he's the guy that Rich talks about. He's the only person he's talked smack to on the floor. My
All
buddy
right.
Ryan.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah.
was on the eighth day team, and
I
they
I
were
remember that was
John at each
the
other.
syndicate crowd.
Yeah, yep. So that was Ryan. Literally, the guy can't shut up. And then we put a camera in front of him, and he's just like blah 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 blah, like he stumbling over his words and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think making people feel comfortable, making them feel welcome, and sometimes just being a chameleon to whatever that setting is super underrated.
Absolutely. Back to the networking thing. I was checking your Instagram, and obviously I can tell that you really take like you really care about networking, connecting with people, being a good person. And you were doing you went to Studio Core, I think it was
Mhm.
called. They do like the night light or light night. Is that
Yep.
what it's called?
Yeah.
And it's like an event that like a bunch of creatives just go and like shoot and like meet each other,
Yep.
connect. And I thought I saw the Frankie LaPena dude was
Uh
there too.
huh.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
he's
Oh,
from Grand Rapids.
oh, really?
And the guy that does his like is a well, he has two guys, actually, both of them I know are his videographers and photographers. And the one, his name's Matt David Creative. Hopefully he'll listen to this. He led like the actual, so late night, what we do is like we kind of BS and talk and catch up with each other for 15 minutes. Then we actually do some sort of breakdown of something within the creative industry for like 30 minutes. And then we just kind of like are let loose in all these sets and go create stuff. And Matt David was there leading that night, and he brought Frankie along. So he is a hilarious, very, very cool guy.
He's like, I own a bakery, he said.
Yes, dude. Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
photo of like the cake, dude.
It is wild. He like lives that persona.
Yeah. Dude, the first time I saw a video, I thought it was for real. That
Yeah,
I was like, wait, is this like does he put something on his
yeah.
pants, or he has like a big of an ass? Yeah, it's so funny.
So if anybody doesn't know, you have to look up Frankie LaPena on any social media. He has like millions and millions of followers. You won't have trouble following.
I feel like most people they've watched at least one of his videos,
Yeah.
like him
But
running.
there's one where he like gets hauled out of a building, or no, he gets his, oh yeah, the guys like exchange money in the background of a scene, and the guy like slaps his butt, and it's like looks like it's a news broadcast. And the guy that's doing the news broadcast, they did an amazing job making it look like CNN or one of those things. The guy is just like a local business owner that's friends with Frankie, and Frankie works at his company. Like
That's it.
literally, it's just the owner of the company. They put him in an outfit that looked like a news anchor, and yeah, they do a really, really good job of like. He actually just did a post about like he does the opposite of what a lot of people do. He just tries to do like really, really high quality stuff that he thinks is going to be like scripted out and is going to hit really well instead of like posting daily.
That's funny. Dude, but I think that's so important. When I first got started, I started connecting with some people that did like similar stuff to me, like my friend Chris, JD, and that's when you start like collabing with other creatives and you start learning from them things they do different. Like when I first got started into weddings, like I will second shoot for JD, and I will learn so much from him that to this point that the last couple of weddings I was shooting, I will still do things that I learned from him. And then when I started shooting more weddings, and then he started like second shooting for me, some of them like we'll collaborate all the time. And that's the way it works, dude. I mean, we met 4 years ago, and we're still like every time I need somebody else to like do something, I'm like, hey JD, are you available? Like, want you to take some videos or something. Like to this point, like we're all everybody that in the area, we work well together. And I mean, you could say we're competitors, but at the same time, like I don't like they don't care. I don't care. It's like there's
Yeah,
enough for everybody, and we just help each other, and it's really cool. So
yeah.
if
I
anybody
mean,
listening, you're struggling to find jobs, struggling to meet people, what Tully did with finding a like a networking group of people, just hanging out with our creatives. There's a bunch of like Facebook groups that's like photographers in Pensacola or photographers
mhm.
anywhere. Join one of those. They probably do like a meetup every other Saturday. They go downtown and take some photos. Just go there, hang out with them, meet people, be like, hey, I'm interested. Anytime you need a second shooter, like I want to learn from you, and then from there you're gonna start getting opportunities.
Yeah, that's 100%. Or another thing I did is I just started searching on social media, and I would shoot people DMs and just like, hey,
Absolutely.
can I buy you a cup of coffee? And I know people give this kind of advice all the time, but it was great for me to be able to just talk to people and learn some of their process, learn some of the ins and outs of the business. Because I
Mhm.
tell you what, if there's something I was not prepared for, it was how much of my time would go into everything that has nothing to do with the camera or editing. I mean, some days I spend an entire day like bookkeeping, sending out proposals, and responding to emails.
Yep.
So that is something that I wish I had better knowledge of before I dove into
Yeah,
what I'm doing here. But
you sit down to edit at 9 a.m. and you end up starting at like 11, just 2 hours, just doing some back end stuff.
yeah, yeah. Or you learn on the other side, yeah, like 11 o'clock at night, you're like, oh, I forgot to send that proposal, and then
Yeah.
you're staying up, kind of stuff. So yeah, late night was cool though because like for me, I do mostly video. And whenever I go to light night, I always try to push myself to do things that I don't normally do. So I almost exclusively do photography when I'm there because I really had never done studio photography like that, where, you're like trying to get a model to pose, or, you're trying to specifically get lighting in a very specific place and get the model, get it to hit the model right, or use strobes. That was something I hadn't really done until I went to light night. It's like I had only ever been, shooting on a field or shooting, in a room somewhere. So, like in the weight room, and I was just doing it on the fly. So learning all those things yeah, it's been huge because there are people that come there and that's the only thing that they've done.
Yeah.
So
And even if it's something that you're never gonna use, it's always good to know.
yeah,
So
and
it's
it's fun
yeah,
to have the opportunity to just like be creative. And again, it's nice to not have there be any stake involved in it. Like if you're a wedding photographer, I feel like you can be creative, but it's not the same level of creativity as like if you were just doing like a spec ad shoot or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, I mean, yes, I agree, but it depends also on what type of wedding photography. I feel like nowadays you see more of the artistic side of wedding photography that you didn't see before, and it looks like really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you some profiles that I've seen. I'm like, dang,
But
they
like, if it was your second wedding photography job, you're probably trying to just get a great photo. And you're probably not like, oh, maybe I'm going to, do this with the aperture. Or maybe I'm going to go over here and like shoot through
yeah,
the trees.
yeah. I feel like it's
Like,
more when you're fully comfortable about
mhm.
trying different things. Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, you probably a lot of times have a second shooter, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't really shoot weddings anymore, but yeah,
But
for,
usually there's like a safety net as well, right?
for video, yeah, for
Yeah.
video, I haven't done one wedding without a second shooter.
Yeah. So again, that's what I really like, the ability to just create is just really nice sometimes with nothing attached as well. Like
Absolutely.
when you have like client work that you have to meet, I always feel different about the creativity. Whereas if I'm making stuff at late night, I'm just gonna make it. I'm gonna put it out, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad or any of that. There was no stake in it being made in the first place.
And
So
it's also cool to meet people with like similar passions like than you.
mhm.
It's kind of like the same with CrossFit. If you go to like an airport and you see somebody wearing a CrossFit shirt, you're like, oh, instantly like you guys are like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And it's funny because uh, the same time I was at the Atlanta airport, I was carrying my Pelican case, and one dude had his Pelican case, and we kind of like looked
Yeah.
at each other, and he's like, "Are you a photographer?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I do a little bit of both." He's like, "Oh, me too." And the dude is like, "What were you shooting?" I'm like, "Oh, I was just in LA shooting some stuff for with Tier, some swimming stuff."
Hmm.
How about you? He's like, "Yeah, I was in LA too. I was shooting Lady Gaga's new music video." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I'm like, "Where are you going now?" "Oh, I'm gonna shoot some stuff with Machine Gun Kelly." I'm like, "Damn, okay, very cool."
Yeah.
And you kind of like start just because he saw I was a photographer, like it kind of you already connected right away.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I had the same thing happen. I did a job in New York and I was flying back to Detroit, and a guy literally right in front of me got up. He had like a low pro backpack, the same one I have, and then threw a Pelican case up in the overhead area. And of course, I was just like, "Hey, what are you shooting?" Yada yada. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to Detroit to shoot a video for T Grizzly. I work for a microphone company and I travel the country recording videos for hip hop artists."
yeah,
And so it was one of the few flights I've ever been on where I didn't like get out my phone, and I didn't put in headphones or anything. We just talked for, I mean, it's like
that's
an
cool.
hour long flight, but yeah, it is really fun. Now I feel like such a dork when I watch like sporting events, and instead of watching the action, like when it goes to the sideline, I'm like, what camera are those guys shooting on?
Yeah,
Like that kind of
always.
thing.
Yeah, it's funny when every time I take an Uber, like if I'm going to the airport from the airport somewhere, and they ask me, "What do you do? Like, where are you going to the airport?" "Oh, I'm a photographer." If I say something like that, they're always like, "Photographer? Like, oh, are you flat? Like, are you getting hired to take?" Like, it's always kind of like mind blowing for people. Like, yeah, I'm getting hired for a job. I'm taking photos. So now I always say like, "Oh, I'm a filmmaker." They always kinda
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, shit." Like, okay, that they usually don't ask that many questions.
Eh,
And
I
if they
mean,
ask like, "What do you do?" "Oh, just, doing some document." I just say something a little more complex so they don't ask too many questions.
yeah. I always feel kind of sketchy being in public with my camera, like if I'm trying to shoot stuff on my own, because people will get like really mad about you having your camera.
Yeah,
Like
some people are like, "Don't shoot me." I'm like, "I got hired to shoot everybody that I can."
yeah. Yeah, or if you're just like creating something, if you go to whatever local landmarks or whatever, people can get really sketched out. They're like, "Hey, don't post me on YouTube or don't post me on TikTok or whatever." I don't know how many times you've had that happen, but it's like every time my camera comes out in public, somebody's got to come say something.
Yeah, people are a little nicer in the South.
Ah, all right,
Uh,
fair enough. People are it's
but
50-50 here in Grand
it
Rapids,
it
that's for
happens.
sure.
It definitely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some experiences that just people like, yeah, just like, "Don't post." I'm like, "I'm not taking photos of you. My camera's pointing down, but thanks for letting me know."
How often have you gotten a client that like maybe you meet with like the owner of the company to get ready to do a shoot and then you show up the day of shooting and the people that you're shooting with like employees don't want to do the shoot? Have you ever had that happen?
So the owner hires me,
Yep.
and he sends me to, like, I don't know, his store, and the people don't wanna shoot.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happened to me.
I have it happen consistently where uh like the client won't communicate with
Yeah, that sounds more
their
like a communication.
yeah, their employees. So I just like show up with a camera and I'm like ambushing them
Yeah,
like, "Hey, I'm here to film you doing stuff."
yeah.
So,
What's happened a lot, which when I'm saying a lot, like, a lot, is that they're not prepared. They were not expecting
yeah.
that big of a production, or just not like, they're just like, "Oh, yeah, they just told me somebody was gonna come here and film some stuff. I didn't know, like, you had a script, like, I have to be in front of a camera." You're like, "Gosh," like, some people are just really bad at communicating.
Yeah.
That's why I do communication so important. Talk to the
Mhm.
client. "Hey, this is what I'm gonna be doing. This is what we're expecting. We have to have somebody talking, somebody doing this, that. That way everybody's, you know, on the same on track to, to the shoot." But yeah, it
Yeah.
happens a lot. Just
It's really helpful if you can ever get I mean, again, you've done this a little bit longer than I have, but for me, I always try to get whoever hired me, I try to not have them be the point of contact. Like,
mm,
if I can like one client I have, I have an account now on their Slack. So I can send a message to all the employees like, "Hey, on
okay,
Thursday, I'm coming to film. Here are some ideas of things that we'd like to film. I hope everybody will jump in and make a reel, before I leave for the day." Or you get in contact with like a manager type position. So that way, the person that's super busy that owns the business, hopefully, is not also trying to relay whatever you need to their
for
employees.
sure. And but at the same time, the more you do it, the more you're gonna learn, like, from past experiences. Like, next time that's not gonna happen again. Like,
Mhm.
uh, same thing with, I don't know if you saw the video I posted not too long ago, like a real estate, like a luxury house.
Mhm.
I posted like 2-3 days ago. So those sometimes take a little longer than expected. You have people that have to say stuff, like you have to walk through the house. And dude, sometimes, like, something that should last 90 minutes to 2 hours, it can last double if you're not prepared and people are not
Mhm.
prepared at the same time too. You get there, they're like, "Oh, I thought it was until like 12." Then you're just waiting there. Then you get there, the house is like a mess. The people that live in the house are still there, or they haven't
Yeah.
cleaned up, and you're like, "What's happening?" I mean, that's why I really try to make sure every shoot I send, like, "Hey, this is what I'm expecting to do. The house gotta be completely clean by 11. Nobody's gotta be there. We're gonna shoot all the talking heads first. Then I'm gonna do the inside of the house. I'm gonna be gone by this time, and then I'm gonna do the drone stuff." So the more information you give the people, the more you repeat it, and they have everything like right there, dude, it's gonna make everything a lot more smooth instead of winging it, and then you're wasting. Yeah, it's still probably the product's gonna be the same, but you're gonna be there for 4 hours instead of
Mhm.
two. And
Yeah. I mean,
you know how it goes. Time. It's important. Some days you're like those extra 2 hours. You're like, "Gosh."
Yeah, you're not getting that back during your week if you're trying to meet deadlines and stuff. It's just going to turn into editing later or whatever. I've had it happen a few times. I actually had my nightmare job happen recently. I was shooting weight rooms for Sorinex. They did like some weight room installations, some beautiful weight rooms in the state of Michigan. And I was going around doing photography and video of those new facilities. And a school in Metro Detroit, which is a little over a 2-hour drive for me, needed me to be at the school at 7:45 a.m. So I had to leave my house, like 5:30, 5:15. I get to the school and the weight room, it looked like they purposely trashed it. Like I came in and there's like plates laying all over the place, barbells, like, and the coach was just kind of like, "Oh, sorry, it's the way it is." So I spent almost 2 hours cleaning their weight room before I could even do my work, which again, that affected me down the line because my next client that I was supposed to be at like 10 o'clock, I wasn't even ready to do the shooting at the place I was at when I was supposed to be at the next place.
Yeah.
So it was just like an absolute
And
nightmare. And
that's gonna happen at the beginning a lot, and then you start, you know, learning and finding better clients too. That's
yeah,
something you start noticing who are the good clients, who are the bad clients.
yeah.
You'll
I
be
talked to the creative director from Sorinex and he said he's done hundreds of weight rooms and he's only had like 2 that were ever that case. So,
yeah,
I mean,
shout
there's
out.
only so much you can do as well. The guy got it. I think I over communicate. I think I had sent him a text 2 weeks before, like a week and a half, a week out, 2 days out, and the night
Still
before.
wasn't prepared.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. You might lose my. You lost me.
overheated?
Yeah, I knew it was gonna happen. I'm gonna swap.
That's fine. Do you have an A7 IV?
Yeah.
So if you go to, I forgot which setting it is, but you can switch it to the
Like the high temp recording.
high temperature. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
That's
do with A7 IV.
This is
Um,
my replacement
wait,
A7 IV.
yeah, wait for Enrique. Now he's gonna say, "Oh, that would never happen with a Nikon." But yeah,
I
Enrique says, if you're a good creator, but you're not a good dude, you won't last long in the space. And then What Zombie, shout out to What Zombie. He says, everyone I've met so far been really good dudes, Enrique, so I have to agree. And I mean, yeah, it's just how it works everywhere. We have a good question here for you, Tully. I don't know if you want to wait until your camera is.
Yep, I'm all set here. This is actually my replacement. My replacement because my camera got ran over by my
Oh
client
yeah,
a
yeah, I
couple
saw
weeks.
that. What 14 days after you started full time, huh?
Yeah, it was. Let's
Gosh,
see, my back up here.
almost
Yeah, no,
one
I
step.
don't know how
One
long
step
it
away.
takes.
All right, so let's see this question. He says a lot of people starting watching this podcast, and some of them have questions about how to break into the space. What do you do that help you build connections in the CrossFit space?
Uh, honestly, I I got really lucky that my best friend was on the team from eighth day that went to the games. Like I had no business 2 years ago being. I'm anybody can create at the games. I'm not like trying to gatekeep in any way, but like I had a Sony A6400. I had like the kit zoom lens was like a 70 to 200 f3.5 to 6.3, whatever. And when I went, I didn't even know what an ND filter was. I literally didn't know. And I was shooting, like you said, I was pretty much shooting everything on auto because I didn't want to mess anything up. And I just like it had been a dream to go to the CrossFit games. So I was just like pinching myself the whole time I was there. So
It's a cool experience. How the first time.
yeah, I mean, especially just be like brushing shoulders with like Rory McKernan. That was like, all those kinds of things. Like, yeah, everything about it. Klokov was just like standing next to me, watching one of the events. Like all those kinds of things. I like didn't even feel like I was actually creating. I just like felt
Yeah,
like a tourist the whole
I
time.
kind of miss those days that everything was like, gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. But before you were in the circle, how
Mm-hmm.
everything was like watching the movies and
Mm-hmm.
just the content and just seeing one of the athletes in person, you're like, oh my god! Like now I don't really get excited about any of that.
Yeah,
And
that's what I felt like such a fanboy the whole time.
yeah,
Like when it rained out, we went into that media room that's in like the convention center and we're all just sitting there and I'm like staring at my phone and I look over and Mars and Heber were sitting right next to me, literally in the two seats right next to me. And I got to just talk to those guys for like an hour. And I felt like such a fanboy the entire time that I was there. Whereas the second year, I like really felt like I was working, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really answer the question very well because to be honest, I'm a free agent right now. If anybody needs a second shooter for the games or any kind of stuff like that, the team that I work with, they tied for 10th place at the East Regional and lost on tiebreaker
Oh gosh. Yeah.
and didn't make it to the games. And so I had my trip booked to Madison, and now I'm not going to get a media pass. So I might just go shoot for my own content. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was an interesting thing that how they did the media passes. I know you guys dove into a little bit. It was really weird that there were people that I knew that weren't working for a brand and weren't on a like weren't anything in particular that got a media pass and were working with a team that got in there. So, but actually, like you guys talked about, you end up shooting from the stands probably almost as well as you shoot from the media pit. So,
Yeah. If you're good, you're gonna make good content anywhere.
yeah, I mean, but like on the side of things for like
Wait, what
networking,
time you got a media pass?
there we go.
Apparently, that's cool.
Lucky him.
Hey, better bring the same cookies you brought at the West, dude. At the West semifinals, he brought like a bag of cookies. I think his mom made it or something like that.
Nice.
Crush those.
Did you
But
guys get your media passes for the games? Like, did you already get the email for that?
I haven't gotten a confirmation, but it's approved already because
Okay.
I'm shooting with Mayhem and they already got like a partner, like I don't know, X amount of passes.
Yeah.
So Scott called me. He's like, "Hey, you're good to go. Just apply, but it's all good to go."
That was interesting that they only had two. That it was Scott and Bennett pretty much trading back and forth between being in the pit at that East Regional or
Yeah.
semifinal, whatever they call them now.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to figure out what's gonna be the best way
Yeah,
to, be a little more exclusive. I mean, who knows? We'll see. It's gonna be the
yeah.
first year that's a little different, but
I've always thought it was weird that with the amount of security that they have, that they haven't just had somebody like you get a badge credential with your face on it and like whoever you're there with, and then they would have a list for like what events you could be at. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Especially during like team events, you would think if you were there with a team, they would be able to make it so only people whose team were in that heat. Like literally, you get in, you get out. Like
I mean, maybe in the next 5 years they're gonna figure something out like that.
yeah, I just again for them it's an interesting thing because they want the exclusivity and they want the people that paid to be getting a lot out of it, but also how much free stuff gets made to just pump up CrossFit in general.
Mhm.
I think that's a thing that was huge for the growth of CrossFit. So
Yeah, it blows my. I've heard some people talking that they might not make any more of the documentaries and movies, like the ones that Mariah just made, or the Butter Bros in the past. In my mind, that's just straight up dumb. Like it makes no sense because so many people learn, they find the sport just because of the movies. I mean, right now it's ranked number one iTunes,
mhm.
number one list, like downloads or purchases. I don't know how it works. But I mean, we're talking about a lot of people find the sport just watching that because they're, first of all, the production is really awesome. The
Mhm.
stories are cool. The athletes look absolutely insane. Like you're like, dude, who is this Tia Claire Toomey chick? She's incredible, and it's just fun. And that's, I mean, I always, I always tell Heber, I'm like, dude, you're the reason why. Well, obviously not only Heber, but Heber, Mars, and everybody that made those movies, but you guys are the reason why I started doing this. I saw that 2015 movie, the fronting one, and I'm like, dude, this is sick. I need to join a gym. And the fact that they're thinking about not like funding another movie for next year kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't I've kind of felt like I really love CrossFit, but the CrossFit world has just kind of felt like a ship without a paddle for the past few years. Just, you know, letting different people come in and it's just constantly changing its
Yeah, I mean,
its goal and targets and
it's more corporate than before, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Before, I mean, the main thing that built CrossFit, it's not there anymore, right? So right now it's a lot of corporate rules and stuff. So again, I'm not trashing CrossFit, but it for me it's more of a nostalgia thing. Like I just miss the the old days
The
when
Wild West.
when everything really excited me. That's why when people ask me like, "Hey, do you like the new movie?" I'm like, "Dude, I loved it. I thought it was great, but I just don't have the same feeling that I used to have in 2016, 17, where
Mhm.
I never went to Carson. I didn't go to the games. I didn't see every event. I just don't know the athletes. So everything's like, it's just more like, oh, that's really cool. Now when I watch the movies, I know what happened. I know this athletes personally. So it's just different. But the movies, I mean, they still make great movies, and I think if they choose not to make another one, in my mind, it's not a good decision.
Yeah, it's again, we're talking the same language here because I think it's huge for their brand to be able to pump it up with storytelling.
And what
I
I
mean,
what I said in one of the episodes, CrossFit is one of the few sports that they make a high end production, like a movie out of the CrossFit games. Like you don't see like an NFL behind the scenes, like Super Bowl, like I don't know, obviously it's like different different levels of sports, but the closest thing that now you get, it's like the Netflix documentaries they do, like the Drive to Survive and stuff like that.
yep,
And I feel like CrossFit could make something like that and it'll be absolutely sick. Like they could still, but you know what I mean? More like you see the behind the scenes, you get to know the athletes, stuff like that. I don't see that happening in our sports. And the fact that they're doing that and they're doing that so well, like they always put so much production value in these movies, these documentaries,
yeah,
that it just kind of like it's one of those things that you can't lose because it's part of the essence of CrossFit.
yeah. I agree 100%. The stories definitely drive a lot of interest, and other sports would see a ton of interest from it. They do have like the HBO does the like the Hard Knocks football where they like follow a team through training camp. Have you seen those?
I haven't know.
You should check it out because I'm a Lions fan,
Yeah,
and they did one with the Lions this past season, and you get that. But it was nice because it was live, so they would do like a week of training camp, and the episode would come out like the Tuesday after the game happened
that's
for their
cool.
preseason game. So it was really fun to be able to get the stories and learn about these players before the season even like actually was going through.
Yeah,
It was really well done. And yeah, I really think that a lot more sports would benefit from like almost like WWE, like making these stories about these individual people and the rivalries and those things before you even get to a season. Like
yeah,
it would, I think it would be huge. But
absolutely.
I,
And Morgan says here the documentaries are what got me into CrossFit. It stuck with me forever.
mhm,
Without them, I wouldn't have gotten into photography or have been able to work the games last year. I mean, many people are on the same boat.
yeah.
And what zombie here is so true. Like how hasn't been a cameraman at Colton's farm. Dude, I mean, we're talking about an incredible story here.
Mhm.
Like this dude works his ass off at a farm and then trains, like I think he does muscle ups, like he hangs some rings on a tree and then that's how he trains muscle ups. And I mean, we're talking about some really cool stories that you can make
Yeah.
here. And it's not because whoever's in charge of making these movies, like Mariah and them and Hamilton Roads, is not because they don't want to do it. They just don't have the budget to do it. Like
Yeah.
if you're not funded to travel to Australia to, other places, like what can you do? You work with what you can. I mean, there's still I thought the movie was really good.
If they didn't do it, do you think any of the individual brands would pull the trigger on telling a story or funding it, like Proven or any of those?
Um, I mean, I think so, but I don't know. I don't want to say something I can say, but I was gonna say something like I
You
don't know.
know better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they can. I mean, Mayhem can definitely, you know, release a movie next year of whatever it's happening this year, and people are
Mhm.
gonna watch it. But there is something about just coming straight from the core of like cross media that
Yeah.
it's just gonna make it. We're here now. We're talking about that. he made pretty much all the whenever he was hired full time with CrossFit. The videos he was making, like he will release something, it will get 3, 5 million views on CrossFit.
Hmm.
The Body Bros channel hasn't hit 1 million views in any video, and they put up the same amount of production value. The road to the games, they do something very similar, but there is something about just coming from the core of CrossFit, like just what what made the sport that just people really like. So I feel like even if a training camp will happen to release a movie similar, it wouldn't be the same, and
Yeah.
they have to focus only on their athletes, and at the same time, but they're like, oh, they're putting a good, they're painting a good picture on their athletes. It's more like, I don't know. I just feel like they have to keep funding these movies and just they just keep doing what they were doing.
Well, let's start the petition.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be sick. I
I,
have
I was trying to think. Did you? We didn't quite get into it, but like, I wanted to get back on the topic just a little bit of the CrossFit, like breaking into the space, because like for me, this is almost like brainstorming because I'm still trying to get there beyond just working with the team here in Grand Rapids.
yeah.
I've thought the only way I can think of beyond like going to the games, meeting people, or going to like semifinals or whatever is to find brands that have something good going on, buy some of their gear and make spec ads and just keep sending stuff out like that to potentially get work. Like, I don't know if you have any other ideas for people listening to maybe try to break into the space. Like if you can't get yourself in front of,
Yeah. I I
any of
mean,
the brands.
I think personally, again, this could hurt some people, but I think doing spec shoots is a waste of time, most
Yep.
in the sport. I've never heard of somebody getting hired by like, oh yeah, I posted some photos with their shirt and they like them. I just think that some people, like some brands, almost see that as like they're trying too hard to, oh yeah,
Mhm.
why they're shooting like my stuff on our athletes and posting it. Again, I don't know, that's my opinion. I could be totally wrong. I've never done a spec shoot before, but I know people that have. People are actually really successful. They have, and they recommend that to their people. I just have never had, good experience with that. And I know some people, like I know the one of the brands I work with, it's more of a bodybuilding brand. They are very famous when it comes to like other creators trying to shoot like people doing like spec shoots with that.
Mhm.
The guy told me like I've never hired anybody that does like that they put a shirt on an athlete and they shoot that stuff. I just see it as somebody it's like trying to get some clout for my brand. And the only way he hires people is word of mouth. Like, oh, like my friend, it's like really good too, and then he see the work, and that's how he hires people. And I feel like in CrossFit and sports, it's a lot of word of mouth too, like networking those connections. That's why like we were talking about this at the beginning of the episode. But I think that's the way people hire, man. Like when it comes to like if I don't know if Proven or HOPO or Mayhem is looking to hire somebody, the number one choices are gonna be people that are recommended.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I have my friend Carlos is very interested. He's been shooting this stuff for a couple of years. I've worked with him in the past, professional. The dude knows what to do. He's great at working with teams. That just says a lot more than seeing an image and it's like, wow, that's beautiful. I mean, it can be a great video, but that doesn't tell me who I'm working with. It just tells me that the dude is talented. But like Enrique was, what was he saying? Like, how is he working with the teams? Is he somebody we can trust? Is he somebody that's going to be committed?
Yep.
So, in my opinion, the way that you get clients and long lasting relationships with those clients, how to break into space, start from zero. Just build your base, get people to know you, shoot the stuff that you like to shoot, talk to people, DM people, make those connections, and then from there, hey, some brand is hiring. That connection is connected to that brand. Hey, if you can put a good word on me, like I will love to work with them. And then from there, you might get opportunities. Again, it's a it's a game of luck too, kind of
Mm.
like I mean, sometimes I go back and I think like I've worked really hard to get here. I deserve it. And I still think that, but at the same time, I've gotten some breaks, like I've gotten some opportunities that I really took advantage of those opportunities. And that one opportunity might have, skyrocketed me to other opportunities, like the
Sure.
first time I shot with Mayhem. I always mention this. My friend Nick, right now he's the CEO of Proven, Nick
Mhm.
Johnson. He sent me a text. He's like, gosh, I can probably go back and look at it, but I'm paraphrasing. He said something like, everybody gets a break. Gosh, I have to look for it because it's such a cool text that he sent me, and I read it pretty much every day that I was at the games just because how powerful it was. So let me see.
No, you're good. I think, something that runs through my mind is like you said, if you were like in a city in the middle of nowhere and you're not immediately connected to anybody in the CrossFit brand, more than likely you're going to have to try to arrange a trip for yourself to be able to go to one of these events and then probably shoot on your own and then get down by the media pit and between events try to just talk to people and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I can't really think of another way beyond sending DMs that you're going to be able to network with people in the industry.
I mean, we have some people here in the comments. We have Morgan. We have Iron Castle. I think he doesn't want anybody to know his real
No,
name,
he's
but
the secret creator.
yeah, but his name. Let's call him Mr. S.
Yep.
He introduced himself at the games. He's like, "Hey, I've listened to your podcast and I like what you're doing." And from there we connected. So
Yep.
right there we have a connection. Then Morgan, same thing. She messaged me before the games last year. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to the games. I'm gonna be shooting with Annie Thorsdottir, like the Icelandic athletes. It's gonna be my first year at the games. I'm excited to see everybody and connect with people." And the first when I saw her, she like introduced herself, and from there, another connection. Now I know who she is. She knows who I am, and then who knows? Like if I'm ever shooting something close to where she lives, and I need somebody, there it is. Hey Morgan, how about if Mayhem is like, hey, we need somebody, we need to hire somebody. Do you have anybody in mind?
Mm-hmm.
You have you have Mr. S, you have Morgan in your mind. You build connections like that.
Yeah. Did you find it?
No, I'm still trying to look.
That's all right.
Just keep talking
Something
about your
that
minutes.
oh, you're good. I
That's
was
the
going to
same
say
stuff.
something that really helped me to make those conversations a little bit easier was, and I'm sure I annoyed some people, but when I wasn't shooting my athletes, I was trying to take pictures of the other creators that were in the media pits and were on the outside edges because personally, it was actually for this podcast. I had like no pictures of myself working. And so it was easy. I felt like easier to connect by saying, "Hey, can I get your social media handle so I can send you the pictures that I took of you?" And then that's how I met Bennett actually.
All right.
Was I took a picture of Bennett and we were just talking in the media pit, and then it went from there. That was actually one of the first pictures I edited and sent out from the games because I was doing video the whole time. Was the picture of you and Bennett down in the media pit because I was like up on the edge when they were
Mm.
limiting during COVID the media pit access there.
Yeah, dude, good times. Bennett's so okay. Talking about connections,
Mhm.
you know the story about like how Bennett started working at Mayhem.
I mean, I listened to the episode you did with him, but I
Okay,
don't remember at
it's
this
a really
point.
cool story, and that it goes back to how important is building connections. So he he's never shot cross before ever in his life. He just started shooting some stuff. And he shot me a message. I think this was 2020. He's like, "Hey, dude, I love your, I love your content. You take like, I love your photos. I just started doing some sports stuff. Again, I'm really new at this. Um, if you ever need help with anything, hit me up. I also live in Pensacola, Florida." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I see the message. I'm like, "Okay, nice." I go to his profile, and this dude told me he just started shooting, and then I started seeing his photos. I'm like, there's something here, like the
Mhm.
photos, the composition was just really good. The lighting, the style, I
He's
just
got the
really liked
eye.
it. He's got the eye, so it caught my attention right away, and I'm like, huh, interesting. And I started talking to him. I'm like, oh, you're from Pensacola. You like CrossFit? And it was like a month before Pensacola Beach Brawl, which is a competition that I'm a media director at that competition, so I have to hire people. And I was talking to the owner, and he's like, "Hey, we need somebody. We need to hire like a volunteer, somebody who's willing to learn." Literally like minutes before that. So whenever he sends me that text, everything just came together. I'm like, dude, he's the one. It's like a gift from God. Just like, hey, we're looking for volunteer. And then this kid that he just started, he's like, his work looks awesome. Let's do it. And I answer right away. I'm like, hey, dude, I like your work. If you'll be down to shoot at Beach Road with me, like I would love to have you there as a volunteer. You
Mhm.
want to learn? He's like, are you serious? Like, he's like, what? Like, how did this happen? Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, no, totally serious. And that was the first competition he shot. A month after he sent me that DM, it went really well. I mean, he crushed it. And then at that point, he was still going to school in Birmingham, but his parents
Mm.
lived here in Pensacola. So I think that was like right in the summer. Yeah, it was right in the summer. And then he goes back to Birmingham and he's shooting some stuff over there, just like random sports stuff. And somebody reaches out to him. He's like, hey, CrossFit Mayhem is hiring. And then he texts me. He calls me or texts me. He's like, hey, do you know what CrossFit Mayhem is? I'm like, yes. What do you want, Bennett? He's like, do you know who I'm like, yes. Do you know Roy? I'm like, yeah. What do you want? Like, why are you asking me these weird questions? He's like, so somebody is telling me to apply there. Should I? I'm like, absolutely. I think that'll be a great opportunity for you. I mean, it's probably the biggest company you can work for in CrossFit. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm super excited. He did some research and the values really line up with his. So he he's like, hey, you told me you know who Rory McKern is. I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, I need a letter of recommendation if you can write something. I'm like, absolutely, dude. I wrote this really nice letter of recommendation. I mean, 100% true. Like things I noticed of Bennett when I work with him. You know, hard work. Dude is somebody that's willing to learn and super young and talented. So I sent that letter to Rory. A week or two goes by and Rory calls me. He's like, hey, just wanted to ask you some more questions about Bennett. We really like the letter. I think he's gonna be a good fit. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Bennett's gonna start working at CrossFit Mayhem. And Rory and I are talking, and he asked me, he's like, are you a freelancer? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we're constantly looking to hire like photographers and stuff, and the CrossFit Games is coming up. Um, have you signed with anybody or are you available? I'm like, yeah, I'm still available for the games. I have no plans right now. He's like, okay, let's stay in touch and see what happens, right? And that's when everything just comes together, right? Like you help somebody to through a connection, through a DM. I help him get into space. Then he took that opportunity, that one opportunity, he crushed it. Then from there, got another opportunity, and then it kind of like full circle, kind of worked around. And then him getting the job kind of helped me get it also in the circle of CrossFit Mayhem. And I mean, now this is gonna be the third year in a row that we work together at the game.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's so awesome. And
Yeah,
that goes back to like not only the networking, but I think a lot of people probably type up a message in a DM or type up a text to follow up with somebody they networked with and then don't end up sending it. So I mean, in a
absolutely.
lot of cases, like what's the worst that can happen? Like they just don't get back to you.
Yeah,
So
that's the worst, dude. I used to send so many so many DMs. Okay, found the text.
here we go.
So again, he's married to Taylor Williamson, which at that point she was CrossFit Mayhem athlete,
Mhm.
richest team.
Yep.
He sent me a text saying, "Bro, I love to hype you up and all, but this is from a genuine place and business standpoint. Keep up the work you are doing right now. This is some of the best work and quickest turnaround I've seen from someone at an event this large. And all it takes is one opportunity or one break to change your career. Let this weekend be it for you." And that would last sentence. It only takes one opportunity or one break to change your career. Let this weekend be it for you. I mean, just that one sentence probably changed my career because that kind of like sinked in. And I'm like, he's right. Like this could be the one weekend that I can show people what I can do, that I can show my coworkers how good of a team player I can be, how I can show athletes like how much I care about showing who they are on the floor and what they're about. And dude, I live by that sentence. Every time I have a good opportunity, I'm like, I remember when Nick told me, I'm like, let this one be the one for you. And when people get an opportunity, don't take it for granted. Don't be like, oh, it's a small opportunity. It can be the smallest opportunity. You can be shooting the team that's gonna finish last of the games, but you can catch somebody's eye, and that weekend is gonna change your career.
Yeah.
So it goes
Yeah.
back to what I said. Like I feel like I deserve to be in the place that I am right now, but at the same time, sometimes I feel like I had that one break, that one opportunity. I really took advantage of that opportunity,
Mhm.
and that just kind of helped me.
But I mean, you were putting in the reps. You're doing all the things to like be able to actually take advantage of that opportunity as
Sure.
well. So that's like the pound the rock philosophy. It's like you can hit a rock 999 times and it won't look like anything's been done to it, and then on the thousandth it busts in half or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, you created that opportunity for yourself.
True. True. But yeah, dude, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You've been a full time creator for what, like a month and a half, 2 months now.
Mhm.
What's the thing that you're the most proud of?
Man, that's tough. I mean, I feel really good about the fact that there wasn't a lapse in income and it hasn't put any stress on my family. That is something that I am really proud of. Um, I've worked with some clients that I've been able to do some really, just personally fulfilling work. I've worked with two nonprofits. I actually worked with, I don't know if you're familiar with the Phoenix, like the sober workout community. They do stuff at CrossFit. They're actually, I think they're one of the sponsors of the CrossFit Games. But I actually got to do a video for them, highlighting a guy going through rehab who does CrossFit classes at Eighth Day, where I do CrossFit, and just highlighting, the impact that they have on the community of being able to help people do fitness and be a part of, their recovery. And I also am working with a nonprofit that they give grants to underprivileged areas for funding sports programs. And those two things, like, I'm just really proud that I was able to plan and shoot and capture the emotion that really allows those people to not only tell their story, but hopefully, tell it to like potential donors and really make an impact in those communities that they're affecting. So those projects are two projects that I'm really proud of.
That's great.
Um,
That's
but
very
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be proud of. It's freaky to go from a really comfortable job to just literally jettisoning yourself out into an unknown world of things. And I'm constantly learning so much every single day. It's like I said, it's like being a strength coach. Like I went from needing to know all the camera stuff. Now I need to know about
yeah.
like when I did my taxes for the first time, I got the longest email I've ever gotten in my life from my account about all the things that were wrong with my bookkeeping, that I had not done right,
Yeah.
like literally all these things that I, would have never learned in exercise science classes. So,
Sure.
um, but yeah,
Dude,
it's
it's fun though. What you said, like you constantly keep learning.
mhm,
Every shoot that I do, I learn something new. On top of my mind, I was with Chadrick at in Vermont at HLPO during their grand opening. I think that was maybe like 2 3 months ago. And dude, we spent a full day just building this podcast station, like lights and audio and some things that, I mean, we had a good idea of how to do everything, but some things that we really didn't know. We spent the whole day just trying to figure out some new cameras, the new Panasonic, whatever they use right
mhm,
now. And after we were done, we kind of sat down. We're like, dude, that was a long day. And then I kind of said, like, I feel like I learned a lot today. He's like, dude, we learned so much today that like it's crazy. And every shoot that I do, it's kind of like that. You learn something new.
mhm,
You and it's also cool. Like I feel like everybody's style kind of evolves too, depending on like your mood or like there's a constant evolution. I think that's really important too. Like to never be fully complacent with your style and just obviously like I feel like everybody's got to have their style and stick to it, and having people know you because of the style that you have, but you can never get stuck into one thing because, dude, it's like you need to adapt to whatever is happening in the real world. And I see that happening a lot. I feel like nowadays people like more the artistic creative part of photography and videography more than the traditional type.
Mhm.
Again, there's a place for both, but I I see that being a thing that if you don't keep up with the trends, you're gonna fall behind. I was talking to Marston and Heber 2 weeks ago about this. Mars was telling me because I told him about the AI and voice enhancer
Mhm.
like 2 months ago, and then when I saw him last time, he's like, "Dude, I use it all the time since you told me." I'm like, "I'm telling you, dude, it's incredible."
Yeah.
And then he were mentioned like the generative fill thing on Photoshop and that how you can edit now podcasts in like one click.
Yep.
And I asked Mars, I'm like, Mars, do you think like what's gonna happen with our job? Because in 10 years, you're gonna put all the clips on a timeline. And you're gonna put, I want to make a hype video that highlights the athlete and the shoes, and then it's gonna, one click is gonna. And he's like, dude, I think it's like everything in the world. I think you just have to adapt to the trends and make it work the way that it's always going to evolve, it's always going to change, and the people that stick to the traditional, like, oh, I don't want to learn the new technology, are usually the ones that fall behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, at least learn them, you know.
Learn, yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun to be able to play around with different styles. I'm actually right now almost going the opposite direction of the way everyone is going, in that I'm trying to build out a system of uh, things to do like analog video effects in camera. I got like a Panasonic handy cam, and you can get this recorder. So instead of going to a tape, it'll go right into the recorder. And then I got a CRT TV, and I'm gonna start playing around with doing like practical effects where like you bring a logo onto the TV and re-record it and do kind of stuff like that.
But I feel like that's also kind of like trendy too, because people love to go back to the old stuff.
Yeah.
Like people love going back to film photography now. Like when film wasn't a thing, people are like, oh, like we're not gonna use film anymore. Now that's like a nostalgia thing, and the people like the look, they go back to film. Like
Mhm.
people shooting like VHS like stuff, and people buying vinyls. Like it
Yep.
just goes back to like a nostalgia point.
Yeah, it is an interesting. I haven't seen anybody do sports content yet, but I feel like it would be cool to have your second shooter just do like Sony Handycam and be
Yeah,
like splicing that in with your 4K beautiful footage, like these like
absolutely. Well,
B-roll of
I have
these
a friend
grungy things.
that does the Super 8 film
Mhm.
for his weddings.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. I mean,
It looks super cool.
I there is something to be said about doing things in camera versus digital. That's like when you try to do the CRT effects in your editing software, you can get it pretty close, but it's not the same
Never
as
gonna be.
manipulating the signal and then bringing it back in. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's just I tell you what, I forgot one thing I am really proud of. Uh, I built my entire business without taking a single loan.
There you go.
Uh,
That's good.
every
That's important.
every single job, I just reinvested back into the business, buying cameras, buying computer stuff. Like I got my FX3 in March, and that was something that I had been saving for like I think I saved for like
Yeah,
20 some jobs, chipping away at being able to get
that's cool.
that without a single loan. So
It's yeah, that's a part of business, man. You gotta reinvest back into your business a lot of the money you make, and it's an expensive career.
yeah.
It's
And
you
if
find
you're addicted to gear, it's really
yeah,
expensive.
very expensive. Yeah,
Every piece of gear that comes out, you just want to buy it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
But it's fun to have like new creative opportunities and maybe some extra excitement when you get a new piece of gear. So I get it.
absolutely. Totally. 1 hour 24 minutes. I know I said 1 hour, but
We're
sometimes
on a roll. What's the longest one you've done?
I think about, gosh, I don't know, closer to 2 hours, but it was a bunch of people. It was one of those that had like a bunch of people, but I mean, this probably top five one. I always try to keep it 1 hour long because at some point I want to have the same guest back. Like we still have things
Sure.
to talk about. But
Oh,
dude,
we just
hey,
scratched the surface. So
yeah, I really, really appreciate you being here. It's fun, dude. I love connecting with people and talking to other creatives. I love what you're doing right now with the whole the pivot like series. Right now you're on like episode 5, right? 4.
yep, yep,
Yeah. So anybody that's listening to this, go to at totally.creative.media. You're gonna find a bunch of his the cool stuff he's doing lately. Again, he's been a full-time creator for 2 months and he's just getting started and he's crushing it. So make sure you follow him, send him a DM, and if you're ever up there in Michigan close to him, I mean, who knows? Like,
yeah. Stop by Beer City.
there you go, there you go.
Yeah.
Before we cut it, what's next for you?
Oh, well, I got a lot of shoots over the summer, but I am shooting my shot here a little bit. If anybody, I'm a free agent, so if any CrossFit groups need a second shooter, I have it on my schedule to be there at the games. So uh, reach out to me if you need anybody. But yeah, I think I'm just going to keep building my business. The 5-year plan is to eventually have some employees that work with me as editors and social media managers, and really trying to build out a full service agency. So
Awesome, dude. I love what you do and I love your vision. So I can tell you're heading the right spot.
I appreciate it. I like I said, it's like I don't know, almost like a dream to be on the podcast because I've listened to every episode. So I just really appreciate you bringing me on.
That means a lot, dude. That means a lot. All right, everybody listening, thank you so much. Everybody that comment, I really appreciate everybody supporting. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like the channel, follow me on Instagram if you want. But if you like something mandatory, you definitely have to follow Tully. You have to follow him on Instagram. If you're listening, you have to follow him. The only thing I require every time you listen to a podcast. I just
I
kidding, but for
appreciate
real,
it.
send him a DM though. Send him a DM with something that you learned from the episode and connect from there. Who knows? Maybe
Mhm.
you guys will get an opportunity from there.
Yeah, I just appreciate it so much. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, so much
And
fun. 1
if
hour,
somebody made it this long, they better be following both of us.
1 hour, almost 1 hour, 30 minutes. Let's do it again soon, okay?
Yeah, I
For sure.
appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.